more than just me. I think something big is going on in the country. I think a lot more people personify and endorse the principles of liberty than anybody ever dreamed of, more than I had ever dreamed of. Who would have ever dreamed 2 years ago that we'd get every single Republican and a bunch of Democrats wanting to audit the Federal Reserve?
And when the Federal Reserve is audited, it will be because of your personal determination to educate people about the Fed. I mean, who would have thought when you go into a coffee shop, the person serving you the coffee is talking to you about auditing the Fed? But that is what is happening today in large measure because of education, of the education that you've spearheaded. Will this pass the Congress? Will the President of the United States of America put his signature on a bill that will require a full, fair, and open audit of the Fed in the lifetime of anybody in this room?
He did better! If the vote occurred tomorrow, no, I don't think it would happen because there's a great resistance in the Senate. If it passed the Senate and got into a bill, most likely the President would I know he would really want to veto the bill. But if he did not veto the bill, he would be assured that it would immediately go into the courts, and the courts have not been our friends with sound money and central banking. So, yes, we have a long way to go, but we've achieved a lot because we've gotten the attention of the American people, and they understand where the real source of the corruption and the evil is, and that is in the Federal Reserve System.
I think once it is audited, it will be over for the Fed.
That's all it would take.
Once the world realizes what they've been doing, for all we know, they bailed out Greece with money that they printed in our name.
But you know, Bernanke objects because he doesn't want us to find out what those bizarre things are that they are doing.
Do you think that members of Congress are embarrassed about the way they behave in public? That the government would actually say to a senator from Louisiana, we'll give you $300 million to pave the highways if you vote for this. A senator from Nebraska will relieve you of the same obligations that all the other 49 states will have. That they'll say to a senator from Florida, name your price. That they'll say to a congressman from Pennsylvania, don't run against Arlen Specter. We'll give you a high-ranking job because we need a return to the government. And even today, I never heard of this Congressman Massa, but he claims that they're trumping up charges against him because he's a Democrat who voted against health care and they caused him to resign. Have these people no shame? Don't they understand the laws against bribery and against intimidation and against extortion? Because that's what they're doing.
I really don't think they feel any shame. They rationalize, they talk to themselves, they tell them that they're working in the people's best interests, and they talk to themselves, but conditions are changing, and hopefully Washington will change as well.
You and I share a hero in American history that I suppose everyone in the room is grateful for his life and his works. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. He had a great public adversary who was the father of big government, Alexander Hamilton. But they agreed on one thing. And that was this. When the public realizes that the public treasury is a public trough, they will send people to Washington who will only bring back as much as they can. Have we reached that point where people go to Washington to grab as much of the pie as they can?
Yes, it still exists, and that's the way it's happened and worked for a long time. But that's changing because now the only thing left for Washington to admit is that the government and our country is bankrupt, and it won't last any longer. Back when Jefferson and Hamilton argued it, they argued strenuously against a central bank creating money out of thin air. But now we have the central bank creating money out of thin air, compounds the problem, and it's coming to an end, and that is why I think that we should all have a token of optimism, because we're in a stage where they can't rationalize much longer. And that's the argument up there, is they're absolutely refusing to admit that this government is absolutely bankrupt, and that's why they're arguing about the problem.
Congressman Paul, if we promise to stop Freedom Watch at exactly 8 o'clock, will you return to this podium to speak to these wonderful young people?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. There's a fire, there's a prairie fire growing in this country. It's in the belly of every one of you here.